12 men, one secret island, and a plan to create infinite money, the hidden blueprint that still controls the world today. They didn't wear capes or crowns. They wore tailored suits, carried briefcases, and believed they were smarter than the entire nation. Most people have never heard their names, yet every paycheck, every loan, and every coin in your pocket still obeys the rules they wrote in 1910. Tonight, we uncover the meeting that reshaped reality itself. It began quietly, like most revolutions do. America was booming, railroads stretched across the land, factories screamed with steel and smoke, but beneath the glitter was panic. Every few years, the markets crashed, banks failed, and ordinary people lost everything. The politicians promised stability, the bankers promised reform, but behind closed doors, they all knew the truth. Whoever controlled credit controlled the country. That truth drove 12 of the wealthiest and most powerful men in America to a private railcar leaving Hoboken Station under the cover of darkness. No names, no press, no witnesses. They were told to address each other by first name only. Their servants didn't know where they were going. The train's shades stayed drawn for the entire trip. Their destination? A secluded resort off the coast of Georgia called Jekyll Island. It was owned by the richest families in the country, a playground for Rockefellers, Morgans, and Warburgs. But that week, it became the birthplace of the Federal Reserve. Imagine the scene, a dimly lit library, cigars glowing, papers spread across the oak table. They were there to solve what they called the money problem. In reality, they were designing a system that would make sure the problem never truly ended, because the problem itself would become profitable. Paul Warburg, a German banker with experience in European central banks, laid out the concept. A network of regional reserve banks, privately owned but backed by government authority, could issue money, control interest rates, and rescue the economy during panics. It sounded noble. It sounded scientific. But hidden inside the language was the quiet transfer of power from the people to the issuers of money. For 6 nights, they argued, drafted, redrafted. Nelson Aldrich, senator and father-in-law to John D. Rockefeller Jr., insisted the plan remain secret until it could be sold to the public as reform. Henry Davison from J.P. Morgan's firm shaped the structure of control. Frank Vanderlip of National City Bank calculated how profits would flow back to the private banks that owned the reserve itself. When they finally left the island, they carried with them a finished document, one that would take 3 years of political maneuvering to become law. They called it the Aldrich Plan. History renamed it the Federal Reserve Act. December 23rd, 1913. Most of Congress had gone home for Christmas. The bill passed quietly through both houses. President Woodrow Wilson signed it, declaring it would stabilize the currency. Years later, he admitted with regret that he had unwittingly ruined his country. The United States no longer issued its own money directly. It borrowed it from a system authorized to create dollars out of debt. From that moment, every dollar in circulation became a promise to repay. Money was no longer wealth, it was obligation. The supply could expand without gold, without silver, without labor, just signatures and confidence. The press releases called it progress. The newspapers celebrated stability. But the true architects smiled for a different reason. They had built a machine that turned credit into control. Then came 1929. The same pattern repeated, only larger. Easy money flooded the market, speculation soared, and when the brakes were applied, millions lost everything overnight. The Federal Reserve, only 16 years old, stepped in as the savior, printing, lending, rescuing the same banks whose policies had sparked the crash. The blueprint worked exactly as planned. Each crisis transferred more power to the center. Decade after decade, the formula deepened. In 1944, the Bretton Woods Conference spread the dollar's reach across the world. Nations linked their currencies to the US dollar, and the US dollar linked to gold. On paper, it looked stable. In practice, it gave America's central bank global leverage. By the late 1960s, foreign governments began demanding their gold back. The vaults were running dry. In 1971, President Nixon cut the tie completely, declaring that the dollar would no longer be convertible to gold. From that day forward, money became pure faith, infinite, digital, and detached from anything real. The original 12 would have been proud. Their blueprint had matured into a planetary system. Central banks could now conjure trillions with a few keystrokes. Governments could wage wars, bail out corporations, and inflate bubbles without ever raising taxes. The people would pay in the slow, invisible way, through rising prices, shrinking savings, and the quiet erosion of time itself. If you look back, every so-called reform fits the same pattern. A panic strikes, fear spreads. The solution expands the power of those who print the cure. 1987, 2000, 2008, 2020. The numbers change, but the rhythm doesn't. The blueprint thrives on chaos because chaos requires liquidity, and liquidity comes with interest. Each rescue is another layer of control, another chain disguised as safety. Think about 2008 for a moment. The housing collapse erased trillions in wealth. Yet within months, the Federal Reserve created even more trillions from nothing to restore confidence. The public got austerity. The markets got free money. By 2010, the top 1% had regained all losses and added new record profits. The middle class was left with debt that would outlive them. The infinite machine was running perfectly. And still, the story didn't end there. In 2020, facing a global shutdown, central banks printed over $9 trillion in less than a year, equal to an entire generation of productivity. Stock markets soared while small businesses vanished. The blueprint had entered its digital phase. Money existed not as paper, but as numbers flickering on screens, programmable, traceable, and infinite. Now the architect's descendants prepare the next evolution. Central bank digital currencies, a system where every dollar can be tracked, restricted, or erased with a line of code. Once again, the promise is stability. The price is control. The same motive that drove 12 men to an island now drives algorithms inside data centers. Only the tools have changed. Ask yourself, if money can be created infinitely, why do shortages still exist? Why do nations drown in debt while the printers never stop? Because scarcity maintains obedience. Inflation keeps you running. Debt keeps you working. Confidence keeps the game alive. It's not broken. It's designed that way. Look at the parallels across history. Rome debased its silver until citizens bartered for bread. France printed assignats until the currency became wallpaper. Every empire that discovered infinite money eventually met the same ending: collapse through confidence loss. Yet somehow, the world repeats the cycle, hypnotized by the glow of freshly minted numbers. By now, you can see the chain of cause and effect stretching from that 1910 island to your digital wallet. Every interest rate hike, every stimulus check, every market rescue traces back to the same principle: money born from debt, controlled by those who issue it. The blueprint has endured wars, depressions, and revolutions because it adapts faster than outrage. And here's the most haunting truth. The men who built it never intended to destroy freedom. They believed control was necessary, that chaos was worse than debt. In their minds, the infinite machine would protect civilization from itself. But power rarely stops at protection. It becomes addiction. The blueprint that saved economies now dictates them. So when someone tells you the system is too complicated to understand, remember it began with 12 men in a locked room and one simple idea: create credit first, find justification later. That's the DNA of our modern world. Where are you watching from right now? Type it in the comments. I want to see how far this truth travels. If this story opened your eyes, hit the like button fast so more people discover what really happened on that island. And if you want to keep uncovering the patterns that still rule our economy today, subscribe, because the next episode reveals how the same forces that created the Federal Reserve built the modern debt empire hiding in plain sight. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you work, it feels like you're falling behind? Why prices for everything, groceries, gas, housing, keep climbing while your paycheck barely budges? It's not your fault. And it's not an accident, it's a design, a blueprint. This blueprint didn't just appear. It evolved like a living organism, adapting to new technology and learning to hide behind new language. Quantitative easing, liquidity support, monetary stabilization, all elegant phrases for the same simple act: create money from nothing, lend it to the system, and charge the world for using it. We see the glowing screens, we hear central bankers speaking softly to cameras, and we see crowds nodding without truly understanding. Most citizens never question it. They trust the headlines, they trust authority, they trust the rhythm of the system. This is how debt empires survive, not by force, but by faith. Faith in paper, faith in screens, faith in institutions that no longer answer to the public. You see it every day. A family staring at rising grocery prices, the tired swipe of a credit card, a father staring at a bill he can't believe. The architects of this system learned early on that a crisis is not a threat. A crisis is an opportunity. When fear rises, control expands. When markets tremble, the printing begins. When citizens panic, power centralizes. You see the newspapers spinning the emergency speeches on TV, the markets plunging, and then suddenly rocketing to new highs. The game is simple. Expand credit, inflate confidence, and allow greed to bloom. Then tighten the screws. When the inevitable collapse arrives, they rescue those at the top and leave the rest of us to rebuild on broken ground. You see the corporate jets lifting off while foreclosure signs are hammered into lawns, and now the world stands at the edge of another chapter. A system not backed by gold, not even by paper, but by code. Digital chains, invisible fences, programmable money that decides where it can flow and when. You might see a notification on your sleek phone: account restricted. A citizen staring in disbelief. They'll say it's for our safety. They'll call it modernization. They'll claim that criminals forced this shift. But criminals rarely write policy. Power does. And power never surrenders ground. It only changes shape. We'll hear the political speeches, see the glowing holograms of a digital dollar, and watch the crowds cheer, all while missing the fine print that changes everything. Look at what happens each cycle. Wages stagnate while asset prices explode. Houses drift beyond reach. The cost of food and medical care skyrockets. Opportunity condenses at the very top, like fog on glass. Picture the skyscraper dinner parties, and then, far below them, a delivery rider pedaling home in the pouring rain. Is this an accident? No. Incentive shapes design. Those who issue the money always win. Those who earn the money are always left chasing. That is the quiet truth you were never meant to see. A worker carefully counts their coins, while a billionaire glances at a stock app for a second, then smiles. This system is both brilliant and brutal. It rewards knowledge and punishes confusion. It provides just enough hope to keep the engine running. But hope is not ownership. Hope cannot hedge against inflation. Hope cannot outrun compounding debt. See the clock ticking on the wall, the candle burning low next to a stack of bills on the kitchen table. To understand the future, we have to trace the pattern. When money printing accelerates, history accelerates. Rome debased its silver, then collapsed under the weight of its own promises. Weimar Germany multiplied paper until wealth turned to dust. Argentina has repeated this lesson again and again. You've seen the grainy historical footage, bread lines, currency tossed like trash into the street, empty shelves. Today, this blueprint is global. Synchronized printing, coordinated interest rates, unified messaging. It's one machine, running across many nations, all pointed in one direction. Growth at any cost. Even if that growth is artificial. Even if the mountain of debt breaks the backs of future generations. The world map pulses with trillions of flashing data points. You feel it already, don't you? Every price is higher. Every paycheck feels thinner. Every year seems harder. And yet, the markets hit new all-time highs. How? Because the markets are not reality. Markets are mirrors of liquidity. When the supply of money expands, the charts rise. When it slows, the charts break. It's a roller coaster, with crowds cheering on the way up and a deafening silence on the drop. But a shift is coming. Confidence is cracking, quietly. It starts with whispers, then grows into questions, and finally, it leads to exits. History shows us that a collapse doesn't start with panic. A collapse starts when people stop believing the story. You see it when a news anchor smiles at the camera, but behind them, the audience is quietly scrolling on their phones, not even watching. Most people will be caught unprepared, not because they are weak, but because they were taught to trust. They were taught that the experts know best. They were taught that printing money is protection, not poison. A student listens in a classroom, looking at a textbook with smiling economists, while the reality outside the window tells a completely different story. Yet there is another path. Awareness. Understanding the game changes how you move inside it. You learn that wealth is not money. Wealth is real value. It's your skills. It's assets with a limited supply. It's community. It's self-knowledge and the memory of history. Picture open books, a bar of gold, a seed in your hand, a handshake with a neighbor. Knowledge compounds faster than inflation. Awareness is your insulation. When the fiat system shakes, those who see the pattern shift early. They prepare silently. They don't panic. They reposition. They diversify. They build. They learn. And they stay humble. You can be that person, watching the sunrise, studying with a calm face and notes on your desk. The blueprint is powerful, but it is not immortal. Every empire that believed its currency was eternal eventually met gravity. Every system that forgot what real value is eventually discovered suffering. Every cycle rewards the awake and punishes the dreaming. You can see the cracked marble statues of old, dust falling from them, and then a new plant growing up through the rubble. Now just breathe. Look around your life at everything you have and ask yourself one simple question. What do I truly trust? Paper? Numbers on a screen? Government promises? Or do I trust in knowledge, in real assets, in real networks, in real skills? Look at your reflection in the mirror in a quiet room and listen to your own heartbeat. The story is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to open your eyes. The same force that built this system can be used to build your own freedom. Money created from debt is dangerous, but money created from your own creation is powerful. Learning is creation. Strategy is creation. Discipline is creation. Imagine yourself writing down your plans, looking at your vision board, working in silence while the rest of the world scrolls endlessly. If you have watched this far, you already stand apart. You are not asleep, you're not blind, you question things. That makes you dangerous to ignorance and incredibly valuable to your own future. The shadows are breaking and light is filling the room. The city skyline glows with new potential. Tell me where you are watching from. Drop your city, drop your country in the comments. Let this truth cross borders. Press the like button now so the algorithm cannot bury this message. And subscribe if you want to decode the next chapter before it hits the world. Because soon we will expose the silent alliance between war, finance, and the media, and reveal why every conflict mints new fortunes for the same hands. Stay awake, stay steady, and stay free.